Hi, welcome. Okay, so the holidays are here, and so I thought what I would do for everybody is make a series of videos with some tips to put in your kind of emotional spiritual tool belt to help you get to the other side of the holiday season with maybe grace and ease, definitely less stress than a lot of us are used to. Okay, so usually when I make these videos, I speak kind of off the cuff, and then I watch them later and I realize that I've kind of spoken in circles, and that I haven't touched on some of the more salient points that I'd like to touch on. So I have created cards. So today you might see me look down a little bit. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to talk about today is the idea of expectation versus reality. This is a really big one for us to understand when we're about to go into social situations. Really, this is a great one for every aspect of your life. So the very first thing we all need to understand is the idea of reality. What I'm going to say is going to make very little sense simply because reality seems fixed, but by its simple nature, right? The word reality. But really, in order to be able to do a lot of the kind of like spiritual healing that we all need to do, we need to understand that there really is no one reality. That is actually an illusion. People are confused by that, understandably so. But if you think about it like this, it's a little bit easier to grasp. Every single person has an ego. It's been given to us as a survival mechanism. It's there to simply keep us alive. And everything that we do, say, and think has been filtered through the ego. Okay? And the ego is a conglomeration of experiences and ideas from our past. So every time we experience something, our ego likes to kind of put it into a certain place and explain it and put it into the right box, things like that. So the ego really is this thing that's a conglomeration of our experiences. Okay. Now, everything that comes at us, we filter through our ego. We filter through our experiences. And everybody has different experiences, right? Had different lives. So everybody's ego is different. And if we all filter everything through our ego, and everybody's ego is different, it stands to reason, of course, that everyone's reality is different. Okay. So that is really interesting. I always kind of giggle at the differences and the kind of push-pull that our daily lives present to us, right? We want to be in harmony with everybody, but our very nature makes us different, but we understand that everything's the same. It's an interesting push-pull. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so getting back to the topic at hand, there is no one reality. Okay. Now, why does the ego create expectation? So we all have expectations before we enter into a situation. We all have them. The ego likes to create expectations for one reason. It does not like to not know what's coming next because it feels out of control. Okay? And if the ego is there to keep us alive, then that's all that it does. It keeps us alive. It's not there to judge good or bad because according to the ego, there really is no good or bad in the world of like what is healthy, what is unhealthy, right? There's only you got through this and you're alive, or you don't know and this could kill you, right? That's the only thing the ego cares about. It cares about familiarity. It cares about predictability. It cares about what it's experienced. Now, why is this? Because at the end of the day, no matter how much we like to think otherwise, we are all part of the animal kingdom. And in the animal kingdom, the most dangerous thing is the unknown. So if you think about it like this, let's pretend that, you live in that you're a gazelle and you're trying to go to a watering hole every single day. and you go the same way that you've been every single day, and you know that the hyenas are here and the wolves are here and the, falling rocks are here. And so, sure, it may be a little bit perilous, but you know what to expect and you know what to do, and you've gotten through it every single time alive. Maybe you've gotten hurt here and there, but you've gotten there in one piece. So your sense of survival, your ego is going to ask you to do that over and over again, even if on the other side is a path that you've never taken that could very well be safer than the one that you're taking now. It doesn't matter, because all the ego sees is the unknown, and the unknown is dangerous, right? So we are animals. We can't escape that. And our egos function on a very primal level, right? That fear of death. Intellectually, you may not have a fear of death, but that's very different than this kind of primal, guttural fear of death, which translates kind of for us into the fear of change, okay? So what we do is we tend to create expectations about what a situation is going to be like, simply because the ego doesn't like to go into something and not know what could happen. So it likes to predict what could happen. These are expectations. It's the ego's way of exerting a false sense of control in order to feel safe. Okay? The ego really needs to feel safe in order to kind of function. So, if we understand that, we do understand that expectations are illusions that are created by the ego. The ego doesn't care. The ego doesn't care that it probably isn't going to be real, right? The ego just needs to come up with what could happen. Okay, so we go into a situation and we have expectations. And what happens when the expectations don't line up with reality, which I'd say 95% of the time they don't, right? Why? Because everybody else's reality is different. And we're all coming into the situation, P.S., with different realities, and every single one of us are coming into a situation with expectations. It's very rare that everybody's expectations line up. Every once in a while that happens, but for the most part it doesn't. So we're all coming in with different expectations and trying to make the situation fit into those expectations. So what happens is that very often people walk away. Some people walk away from a social setting feeling fantastic, or a family gathering. Some people walk away feeling disappointed. It's usually a little bit of an amalgam of the two for most of us, right? Now, the fascinating thing is that the idea of disappointment is something, long-term disappointment is something that we really don't even need to hold on to or to take with us during these family outings, and not outings, family experiences, or social situations. What we can do is we can actually release the idea of an expectation, okay? I'd love to tell you guys to release expectations, and we can all just magically release them. Like, poof, there are no expectations. But that's almost impossible, right? Because that really means that your ego isn't working overtime, which it always does. And, if you're at that point, there's a good chance you're probably not alive, right? That's the interesting, once again, that kind of push-pull. But what you can do is you can understand that the ego creates expectations and that the expectations are illusions, right? So when you go into a situation and something is not lining up with your expectations, instead of doing what you've always done, which I guarantee for most of us is trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, you can then just feel whatever is happening. And very often it's not going to feel good, right? It's going to feel challenging. You're going to feel anxious or angry or frustrated or scared or whatever, right? But what is really important in that situation is that when these feelings arise, instead of going, oh my God, now I have to make it fit in order to make this feeling go away. Instead of doing that, what you do is you let the feelings be. Now here's a secret, here's a trick, okay? You have to understand and tell your mind continuously that feelings aren't baseline. Happiness, sadness, fear, joy, anger, all of these things are moments, right? They're not baseline. This is my dog who's a little bit anxious to eat. You're not going to eat right now. Stop. No. Okay. He tries to start asking me to eat like a good 20 minutes before it's time. You'll just see him now. Anyway, so what we tend to think of is everybody's like, I just want to be happy. Being happy is impossible. Being happy all the time is impossible. And I would hazard a guess that you wouldn't want to be happy all the time, right? That's an impossibility. It's an emotion. An emotion is a moment, right? Or a series of moments, but it's not baseline. Neither is anger, neither is fear. They're all emotions. They come and they go. The only thing that is baseline is presence, okay, is awareness. Everything else is here and here and here. So if you understand that, you can start training yourself to be comfortable in the discomfort. What if you don't engage the anger when the anger comes in? What if you acknowledge it? Okay, I'm angry. I'm angry because this person didn't sit in alignment with an expectation that I have. They are living their own reality. They want their expectation to come to pass. Okay? So you guys are, believe it or not, you have the same goal. You're just coming at it from different directions. So it's really great because you can at least find that continuity so you don't feel like you guys are on separate ends of the spectrum, right? You're all looking for the same thing. But what you can do and what gives you the spiritual, emotional advantage for yourself in that situation is being aware of what is happening with everybody, including yourself, right? That this expectation is not real. So when it doesn't come to pass and you feel whatever feeling comes up, right? Because you're going to be triggered by it. Instead of fighting it, you feel it, you look at it, and later on you can ask yourself why you felt that. So that's also an added benefit to this too. Why did I feel this? Why did this trigger me? What is it in me that I need to heal in this situation? Okay. You let it pass and then you let the next thing come up. This is really fantastic because what this does is it puts you in alignment. So what does being in alignment mean? Being in alignment is, as much as possible, releasing the ego. Once again, I said, of course, we can't completely release it, but we can be aware of it. And we can release the ego as much as possible in order to be present in what's really happening. Okay, to just experience things and notice them without trying to shift them so they fit some version of our reality. This is a really cool way to live life, simply because when you start doing this on a great enough basis, you start realizing that all of the things that your ego likes to do and the way that your ego likes to categorize things and the expectations that you have for a situation aren't necessarily even the things that you need the most. What you need the most is to be present and to receive the lessons and the experiences that the universe is presenting to you. But when you have expectations, right, you're really busy doing this, or you're really busy doing this, but you're never present. You're never just experiencing what's happening. And I always laugh at myself when I go into a situation and I think I know what needs to happen, because I always remind myself that I'm actually saying that I have a better sense of what needs to happen than the universe, which just makes me laugh. I've experienced enough things, and I think you guys have as well, to know that very often situations don't move forward in the way that you think they should, but you come out the other side and you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing, that was fantastic, or that was challenging, and I learned so much, or this was fun in a way that I didn't ever think it would be, right? So what is the thing that keeps us from being present in those moments? It's expectation. So now, when you're in a family situation and everybody's doing their thing, right? People are saying what they say and doing what they do, and these feelings start coming up, and realities bump into each other, and expectations aren't being met, and all of this is happening. When that anger bubbles up, when that sadness bubbles up, when that judgment bubbles up, which it will, you can't stop that from happening. Instead of engaging, you say, there it is. And just like everything else, when we experience happiness, but we don't try to hold on to it, right? It's interesting. We try to hold on to anger because we want to make things the way they need to be, but we're okay with kind of letting happiness be a little bit more fluid. Fascinating, right? So instead of trying to hold on to the anger, you let it move. You notice it, you let it go. And then see what the next thing comes up. It feels like. It may be frustration, it may be fear, it may be happiness. The conversation may have shifted, right? It may be something completely different. You may forget what needs to happen. But every single time that expectation comes up and something isn't in alignment with that expectation and that anger comes up, notice it, know what you're doing, know what's happening, and then let it go. It's challenging. You have to do it consistently. You'll kind of leave a family gathering going, oh my God, I worked so hard. But what is fascinating about all of this is that the ego needs a sense of control, right? And so it has expectations. But the expectations are intrinsically linked to other people. And free will is a thing, right? So our expectations 95% of the time are going to not be met. So we're going to be frustrated or disappointed in some way. Now, here's the thing. If the ego needs control, and we usually put our expectations on other people, what would happen is if instead we had expectations for ourselves and for how we are going to react, right? Because we cannot predict the way anyone else can react. That's an illusion. But we can take control over our actions. So instead of going into a family situation with having the expectations of how everybody is going to speak to you and meet your words and act when you present who you are, instead you say, I'm going to take control over the way I receive information. I'm going to be in control of the way I experience everybody else trying to insert their reality on mine. So when somebody says something challenging to me, instead of, I can make the choice to react. I can also make the choice to look at it and see it and let it go, right? But it is me. I'm the one in control of this. I'm the one that can control my actions in this situation. It's a great way to kind of work with your ego, okay? And it's a great way, it's a great tool to create healing, because instead of looking at everything like this, you bring it back on yourself. At the end of the night, if you want to post-mortem the night and say, okay, why was I triggered when somebody said that to me? You can look and see why you were triggered. And I ask you to not do this when you look and see why you're triggered. You're only triggered by things that you need to heal within yourself. So, if you can, moving forward, before you go into that social situation, that family situation, say to yourself, I understand that reality is not just my specific reality. Everybody's reality is different. And I understand that ego is an illusion created by the, did I say ego is an illusion? Sorry. Expectation is an illusion created by the ego to exercise a false sense of control. If you go into it with these very basic ideas in place, you're definitely going to come to the other side of it feeling calm, feeling grounded, feeling present, feeling more in control, and feeling what I say is being in the soup. Being in the soup is being present, being in alignment, noticing what's happening instead of what you think needs to happen, right? When you're present, when you're in alignment with everything that's going on around you, whether it feels challenging or fun, it's all the same thing. It's all you being present. And when you're in that moment, it's really fantastic because everybody says to me all the time, oh my gosh, you're magic. I'm like, no, I'm not. You know, I just try to be present as much as possible because I've worked a lot with these rules. I still struggle all the time, but I've worked a lot with these rules. So I understand that all of the things that look like magic are just the way being present works. You know, these amazing things happen in nature all the time. We look at nature all the time and say, oh my gosh, nature is magic. It's not magic. It is. So the more present you are, the more you see this amazing flow, the more you also see people who present to us as challenges, who trigger us as opportunities to learn and to grow. You see them as being people who are working through the same things, always scratching, who are working through the same things as we are, right? It gives you this beautiful sense of perspective. And isn't that, at the end of the day, sorry guys, what's missing in so many of our lives? It's the ability to have perspective, right? And even if we cannot adopt somebody's reality as our own, to understand that somebody else has a reality and that it's just as valid as ours. So I hope this helped. It is reality and perspective and expectation all rolled into one. And so moving forward, if you guys need me, I will be around for phone work on the holidays. From the 20th through the 29th, I will not be in the Beacon area, but I will be available for phone consultations. So feel free to call me if you need anything. And please continue to be present and think about what you're doing. And the next video that I'm going to give probably in a few days is going to be on faith and grace, which is a challenging one, but once again, super important. So between now and then, if you'd like to send me questions or you have comments, please feel free. I'm always here, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And thank you so much for tuning in. I know this was a long one, but I think it was a good one. Okay, thanks. Take care.